Welcome back. So we want to talk about stinger videos and intro and outro videos in this episode. That has nothing to do with Soothsayer, so just get rid of that one. So first of all, what is a stinger? A stinger is a very short video clip which you, as a viewer, if you don't pay attention, you barely notice, but you would notice if it's not there. Like, say you are watching some sport event on television. I know some people do that. These are full with stingers. Like, whenever there is like a scene transition, like when there's a cut from live play to replay, for example, or from live play to commentator view, or from commentator to another commentator, or whatever is happening, whenever there's a cut, these live sport events have usually a stinger in between. And it would look awkward if it would not be in there. You would, as a viewer, you would probably immediately notice if that stinger would not be there. But you, and this is the irony of it, you barely notice the stinger itself. You only notice the absence of it. So in our OBS casting, because we are used to seeing a lot of casters which are not using stingers, and that's totally fine. So this is why we are not particularly shocked, like if we go from pre-live to pre-game and we see something happening like this, right? That's just how the world works in the world of streaming. Or when we go from pre-game to standings, that something like this happens. And that's what we are used to. But it can be a little bit smoother. So, and this is how we introduce stingers here. So the first question is, where do we actually want to introduce stingers? I personally think a good place to put a stinger is right between draft and game. Alright? So draft is over, you are in the loading screen, and now right before the game starts, you switch to your game overlay from this overlay to this overlay. Alright, so actually there's a lot of stuff happening here, like this logo moves down here, the ticker is disappearing, all of that stuff is disappearing, instead you get all of these things. So there's actually a lot of things happening, and if you just have like a fade transition, I mean, it's not bad, but it's a stinger would really be helpful here. So let's introduce a stinger. So the first problem is you're gonna need some kind of video if you want to use a stinger, because the stinger is a video. Fortunately, NGS and Heroes Launch usually have you covered with their own kind of streaming resources. So you go, I have downloaded all resources for NGS Seasons 13, for example. It's just a folder which is linked in the document in the video description, but you can also find that in the caster Discord on NGS. On Heroes Launch, there's the same kind of material. I just downloaded NGS here for this presentation. And here you have caster videos, and there is a stinger folder, and there is a stinger no audio in here. So if you open that, it's a very short video. It's about 3 seconds. Here it plays on repeat. It's just like this little something, right? Like it's, you now see the similarity to live coverage of sport events. It's like this little thing which is happening in between a scene transition. And this is what we want to use in OBS. Alright. So to introduce that, we go to scene transitions, and we hit add : stinger. Call this the NGS stinger, because if we are in Heroes Launch, we would use another one. Hit OK. Okay, and this opens this interface here. Now, first thing, we need to point it to the right file. So that was under Streaming, Resources, NGS Assets. And you have to download this yourself, so it will be in whatever folder you use. Caster videos, stinger and audio. You can also just download the stinger on audio, no problem. Okay, here we are. So now you can already preview the transition here, and you should really quickly check if that is what you want. And you see like A transition to B, right? So the scene is actually transitioned in the background of the video. And if you have a video with alpha channel, you could even see the scene changing in the background. That is totally possible. This video is completely opaque, so there's like we cannot see through this video to see the scene transition happening in the background. But if you have like a video where this is important, where you have an alpha channel and some transparency, you might want to define where your actual transition point happens from A to B. So this video is 3 seconds long, so I put it here now in the middle, but it really wouldn't matter because the video is completely opaque anyways. But you want, like if your video is not completely opaque, you want to have a transition point being at a point in your video, at a frame in your video where the video is completely opaque, so that your video like swoops in and then the scene transitions, and then your video swoops out and you have the other scene appearing magically, right? So this is why the transition point can be set here to exactly the right frame in your video. Okay, and then a quick word about sound. I have noticed some casters get this kind of wrong. They use a stinger video, which is cool, and I approve of that. But their audio is kind of pumping, and like it gets really low, and then it comes back. Like for example, the microphone sound, or like your background music sound, or whatever. Like it fades out, and then it quickly fades back, right? Depending on how long the stinger is. And to avoid that, you want to go and have a crossfade on. So that means that. So okay, so let's talk first of fade out to transition point, then fade in. What does that mean? Well, we are approaching the transition point with full audio from our first scene, which for example includes our microphone and our game sound. And then we fade it out until it's at 0 at the transition point. And then we grab the audio from the other scene, from scene B, which we are transitioning into, which for example could also include our microphone and our game sound, or maybe it's even the same microphone and game sound, right? And now we are raising the volume again until we are at full volume for scene B. So especially if these two sound sources are the same sound source, then we have this pumping effect where it's like, oh, it's getting really low, and now it comes back up, right? So if you don't want that, use crossfade instead, which is like the actual crossfade functionality of a DJ, is where you, like, while you are fading out the sound of scene A, you are fading in the sound of scene B, so that the total amount of the total volume stays the same, right? So it's like crisscrossing. One goes down while the other goes up. And now if you have exactly the same sound in your scene A and your scene B, for example, your microphone sound will always stay at the same level. It will not like have this pumping effect, right? It will stay at the same volume, basically. So I would recommend turning crossfade on here, unless you have something special planned. Okay. And the track mat here, that is for if you have alpha channels and you want to like overlay this in some smart way. I can like show you a little bit how this would look like. You see, like it's like kind of shine through, and there's usually more options on that. I would just recommend turn it off. If you really know what you're doing, then you're probably not watching this video anyways. So and if you really understand what's happening here, then you're probably not watching this video anyways. And then you can do more cool stuff if you know about that. But anyways, so let's hit OK here. And now we need to be careful, especially if you would put in a longer video here. So now the default scene transition is NGS stinger. Right, so that means whenever we transition any scene, we would see the stinger. I present it to you. We go to standings, stinger. We go to post game, stinger. Right? So it would be everywhere, and this is probably not what you want. Alright? So put this back to fade, And now we have the usual fading transitions. But we want to have the stinger. So how do we get the stinger? Is we select our game scene. This is where we want the stinger to appear before we transition to that scene. And it doesn't matter from where we transition. But if we go to game scene, we want to see the stinger. When you hit the right click button on your mouse and you just go to transition override, and now here appears NGS stinger. Alright. So select that, and now if we go through our motions here, alright, so we are in the standings, we talk about that, we go into the map draft, Blackman Street picked Battlefield of Eternity, we go into a draft, Blackman Street picked Everfur and the Lost Vikings on Battlefield of Eternity, and now we are loading into the game, here we are, get hyped, people, NGS, alright, so that's the stinger, now we are in the game scene. And if we go out of the game, we go into stats and so on. So everything else looks normal. So that is how a stinger works. So now a quick word about intro and outro videos and why I would not use them as a stinger. So this is stinger no audio, which is actually pretty nice because if you put a video into a stinger, it's pretty hard to control its volume, and some videos are super loud. So if you have a very loud video and you want to use it as a stinger, you would have to like actually open it in video editing software, reduce the volume to the level you want to, resave that video with a new volume, and then introduce that as a stinger. It's a little bit cumbersome. But let's have a look at what other videos are available in our NGS assets. So there is an intro folder, and that contains an NGS Season 13 intro video. Let's have a quick look at that. And you will see it's very loud actually. Not as loud now, but it would be
oh my
here.
Goodness, look at the health bars! It's a quad kill!
Should find the kill. Lunara will clean up that fight. Oh my god!
So what I just put it there to 100%, this would be the volume at which it would actually be being played by OBS. So that's way too loud, right? It would, in my setup at least, it would be too loud. Okay, but in the meantime you got an idea about what this video is about. You're gonna watch it again. It's like a 30-second intro video which like gets everybody pumped and excited for the match, right? And it's also commercial for NGS, which is a good thing, right? Because they are providing you with the games you are casting, so it's good to shout them out. Alright, so how do we use this? Well, we could place it as a stinger in here, but I already told you about the sound problem. There's also another problem, and we can demonstrate this here. So if I go to the game scene and quickly want to go away from the game scene to draft, you will see that the stinger is actually blocking that. So if I go to game, when I go to draft, the stinger is even repeating, and like it just starts again, right? So I cannot get out of the stinger quickly. And this is particularly annoying if you have a video which is like longer than 3 seconds. So because you are kind of giving up control over what you are actually showing on your OBS. I don't like that. So for the intro video, we are actually gonna create a new scene instead. So let's call this NGS Hype. And I'm gonna place this between pre-live and pre-game, because this is a good transition from just like general information and background music happening to we are actually gonna start our stream here, start our cast. Okay, and currently it's pretty empty, of course, so we put in a video source and call it NGS Intro 13 because it's Season 13. We're not gonna loop this. Oh wait, why am I on a playlist? I think I put the wrong source here. Media source, that's what we want. NGS Intro 13. Okay, so we get the intro video here. Okay, there's a couple of options. We do not want to loop that one. When it's done, and we switch to the next scene. Restart playback when source becomes active. sure, whenever we go to this scene, we want this video to play. This is why we go to this scene, right? Show nothing with playback ends, that's correct for us. Speed 100%, close file when inactive. That saves you some memory on your computer. You cannot do that. Alright, and now if you start this, you see that you see about a quarter of that video, because that video is an insane resolution. So let's actually make this a little bit smaller and dock it here to the left side, dock it to the right side, and it will look something like that. And we can lock that. So the only grudge I have about this video, I think it's awesome, but the only grudge I have about it is that it is in widescreen. That is like super widescreen. So I have these black bars at the bottom and the top because I do not have a super widescreen monitor canvas. So everybody who has like a normal 1920 times 1080 monitor like I do, for those we will have these black bars. So that's really only little thing I do not like about this, but besides that, it's really awesome. So it's something I will definitely use in my casts. Alright, so the video is running and you need to keep attention here to the video when it's over, that you are actually yourself are switching to the pregame scene. There's no way, at least I know, in an OBS to recognize that the video is over and it should switch to the next scene. I mean, that would make it effectively a stinger, right? Okay, and this is the intro video, and you can do something similar for the outro. And let's have a look like what is a good outro video. On the Casters channel there is this NGS Patreon bumper. So let's have a quick look at that. If you love NGS, you can become a patron. And that part is a little bit loud. And then it's over. So it's fairly short. It's just on the edge of being a stinger, I think. You can put it in. So what I would recommend is actually opening that video in some editing software, and at least for my setup, I would reduce the audio, and especially on that last part, and put it as a stinger into my post live scene. Right, so I would have here a transition override NGS Patreon or whatever, and I would put it in here. So I would have to create a new stinger with that new audio source, and then I transition the override here and put that in. So that would come up before I'm going to the thanks for watching screen and transitioning into my background music. Yeah. So that's my message about Stinger's intro and outro. That is episode 25. We have a couple more to go. Next time we're gonna talk about Stats of the Storm, which is an awesome tool which you can use to prepare your cast a little bit more detailed. See you there.